Oh, sorry. Okay, so call to order the regular meeting of the Board of Commissioners, Tuesday, January 2nd. Happy New Year. Roll call.
Commissioner Ernst?
Here.
Commissioner Engel? Commissioner Rollins? Commissioner Vogelsang?
Here.
Commissioner Wright?
Here. Any changes to the agenda? Nope. Public requests. Do we have any?
Hello, Robert Duquette for the record, 5351 Northwest Third Terrace. I also want to wish all of you a healthy and happy 2024. Hopefully it'll be productive for the district. I'd like to encourage you to reconsider your resolution, the approval of the resolution that was drafted and presented at the last meeting. Some of the opposition comments, I will say, sound like they came from George Brown. If anybody would like to disclose that from a transparency standpoint, I would like to hear that. Speaking of transparency, I mean, from meeting to meeting, from the meeting a month ago to the last meeting, you guys are ready to go to war with the city over the CRA. And then suddenly you write a check for $2 million and say that there's nothing you can do. I mean, obviously I come to the meetings, anybody that looks at the meetings online from month to month or week to week or meeting to meeting, they have to wonder, is this the same body that was, again, ready to go to war with the city? And then suddenly there was no comments from your legal staff, other than the fact that you had to do it. And, you know, I'm sure that there's some reason why you had to do it, but again, you went to the trouble of looking for $5,000 possible for a public records request. Everything, you know, regarding what went on with regard to their supposed requirements to meet the payments that you were making. So again, that's one of the things that I know other people than myself have also noticed when it comes to a lot of changes from meeting to meeting. I'm not accusing anybody of any illegal problems or legal problems with regard to the Sunshine Law, but obviously there's something goes on behind the scenes that it would be nice to have it disclosed. As far as the resolutions opposition, there was discussion about people might go across the railroad tracks if there was no road going through. I think that George Brown already made it clear that responsibility is up to the district to make it safe. I suspect you'll have an 8-foot high fence along the railroad tracks. And I'm sure that that's, you know, something that's already in the plans. You're not going to have a 4-foot fence, or you're not going to have the current type of fence that you have there now along the railroad tracks. But again, the public safety issue. Yes, the city is probably not going to withdraw their application to the FDOT, but you all read that report, the application to the FDOT, and how misaligned and how misguided it was with regard to the public safety issue. So again, please reconsider that resolution, because I think it's not only important for the public safety, but it should be noted to FDOT, NTSB, and others that would be impacted. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
My name is Harold Chaffee, 6200 Northwest 2nd Avenue. I want to wish everybody a happy new year and the best of health to everyone here. And you have a certain responsibility. If you see that something's going to happen, that's going to create a situation, an unsafe condition, you need to basically let people know it. The city basically saying, when we went to the meeting, they're saying basically it's all your responsibility, but it's not, it really isn't. It's them. They're going to put the road in, you know, and I really don't know. You know, you got 3 people who basically agreed to basically send to let the city know that you really didn't want the road. It's your property. You take care of it for us. We're taxpayers. We bought it. We gave you the money to buy it. Okay. And you got to protect it. So if there's a situation where there's going to be a road coming through a 4-lane highway through a park that you're going to do, I think you really then let them the city you really don't approve of this. You know that. Yeah. If you start doing the 4-lane highways, look at the layout. You got the bicycle, you got the mountain trails, the bicycle trails. Okay, they're gonna be severed in half. Nobody's gonna come here and get off their bike, the mountain bike, and then walk over to the tunnel, come through the tunnel and go back over to the trail again to continue it. And even when they came here, they said if it isn't over a certain length, there's no sense building it because it's not, it's not feasible to even enjoy it. The same with the walking trails. I mean, this road will disrupt everything that you want to basically do with a plan. You'll have everything severed in half. It's I hope, I don't know whether I made my comments clear, but it's something that you really have to look at. All right, thank you very much.
Anything online? That's right. I mean, how many times do I have to ask? Yeah. Okay, closing public request, approval of the minutes of the previous board meeting held on December 4th.
Move to approve. Commissioner Ernst, Commissioner Engel, Commissioner Rollins, Commissioner Vogelsang, Commissioner Wright. Motion passes.
Okay, regular business. First, order of business is the election of officers.
Madam Chair, I'd like to nominate you for doing a great job in the past, and I know we can depend on that for the future. So I would like to nominate you for the chairperson.
You're not hearing further nominations. I move that nominations be closed and we accept the motion by acclamation.
Okay. We do a vote on that, on the motion.
Commissioner Ernst,
Yes.
Commissioner Engel, Commissioner Rollins, Commissioner Vogelsang,
Yes,
Commissioner Wright. Motion passes.
Madam Chair, I'd like to nominate Commissioner Rollins as vice chair.
On that as well.
Move to close the nominations.
Mhm.
Rollins, Commissioner Vogelsang,
Yes,
Commissioner Wright.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Chair, I'd like to nominate Commissioner Ernst to continue to do his amazing job as treasurer.
Nominations.
That.
Ernst, Commissioner Engel, Commissioner Rollins.
Yes.
Commissioner Vogelsang, Commissioner Wright. Motion passes.
Okay, moving on to second order of business, the FAU Glades Field restroom cleaning.
Commissioners, page 5 of your agenda packets talks about the increase from last year to this year to continue cleaning the restrooms during the 3-month period where they're used at their peak. Just looking for approval tonight of this as presented.
Make a motion that we approve the FAU field restroom cleaning in the amount of 1805.61 per month.
Commissioner Engel, Commissioner Rollins, Commissioner Vogelsang, Commissioner Wright. Motion passes.
Okay, moving along, approval of payroll and invoices.
I'd like to make a motion for approval of invoices, payroll invoices of 55,148.92.
Commissioner Ernst, Commissioner Engel, Commissioner Rollins, Commissioner Vogelsang, Commissioner Wright.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, reports and discussion items. Brand, do you have anything?
Well, things, I just want to wish everybody a happy new year. Let you all know the surge arresters were installed at the swim center. And as referenced during public comments, we have a lot of things to revisit at our next meeting. So appreciate the time during the holidays. And we'll get back to business and revisit a lot of the things that we started last year. That's it.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Happy New Year to everyone and your families. Just a quick update and congratulations to the new officers for this coming year. We've discussed with you the pending special districts bill. There's now both a Senate sponsor and a House sponsor. And for the record, the House bill is referenced as 7013 and the Senate sponsor is Senate Bill 1058. The bill is moving through the House and Senate. And to the extent possible, it has what they call, it has legs. It's actually moving in that direction. There are some aspects of the bill, and we can share with you that in more detail at the next meeting, but there are some aspects of the bill that do require some attention. And some aspects of which are somewhat draconian in nature, which the most important of which is the potential for submitting to voters the potential continuation of the district itself. And that's provided for in not just term limits, which are certainly not uncommon to certain districts statewide, but also to the issue of voter reauthorization. The bill requires the governing body of each independent special district that exercises ad valorem taxing powers, which we do here, to conduct a referendum election asking the electors of the district to approve its continued existence according to the following schedule. Districts before January 1, 2018, which this would be, that would be at the 2026 election, general election, which is 2 years down the road. And for districts that were created before January 1, after January 1 would be held 10 years after the creation date. That's a very severe provision in a bill. It's not uncommon for districts somewhat statewide to have a 10-year reauthorizations, but this is not just a reauthorization. It's basically reauthorization for the reasons of because you tax and you have taxing authority. If the voters approve of the continuation of the district, the governing body of the district must call another referendum every 10 years thereafter. But the end result is that the way that the question was drafted in the statute, and it's specifically phrased that way, it places a significant burden on districts to maintain their continuous nature, because a voter will not really know what they're voting on per se. What they're going to be asked to do is, do you want to continue being taxed, essentially? And to that extent, it would be somewhat illogical for a voter who may not know exactly what any district does to simply say, oh yes, I don't want to be taxed anymore, and vote in favor of the abolition of the district. There is a provision for 12-year term limitations also in the bill, which is also being discussed. There's also a provision for performance reviews, which is not a terribly bad thing. It's been actually looked at for other special districts, but it would require on an annual basis to conduct a performance review to evaluate the programs, activities, and functions of those districts, including the purpose and goals as stated in the district's charter, the district's goals and objectives for each program, et cetera. There are a number of different factors in the statute that would make it not suggestively onerous, but certainly worth noting that it's also proposed. This bill applies to independent districts, which this district is, and dependent districts, as well as special neighborhood improvement districts, which are basically districts that are that provide for guardhouses and privatization of roads in private communities. So, for example, they too would be subject to this. In fact, the provisions that relate to SNIDs would be that if you are in existence before July 1 of 2024, that's okay, you're grandfathered in, but there will be no more SNIDs after July 1 of 2024. It also impacts community redevelopment agencies, provide certain conditions on them as well. So we're looking at the bill, we're looking at it carefully, we're going to follow it. I know that the state association, the Florida Association of Special Districts, has got this right in the center of their radar. They're paying great attention to this. I know that Brianne's been following it since the very beginning. In fact, when she contacted me initially and said, have you seen the bill yet? I really had not seen it yet. And then I pulled it up and reviewed it and said, this is a serious bill. This is something which is an outgrowth of last year's discussions. You may remember Form 6 is now required for local government officials, for municipal elected office holders as of January 1 of this year. So if you have elections in your city in March, as of January 2, when you qualify, which would be today through the next week, you got to file a Form 6, no longer a Form 1. Special districts were in the short hairs of the legislature last year for Form 6s. It didn't materialize. There was a reference, for example, to city managers and county administrators. It was in the bill right to the very end. It was pulled from the bill and was not part of the bill. but the application to local governments does apply. You're still only at Form 1 filers, as I am. There's nothing in the bill right now that talks about Form 6 applications. It's not part of it. But the sheer existence of special districts appears to be at least being challenged somewhat, and I recommend that you pay attention as we proceed during the session. And to the extent that we can monitor the bill throughout the committee sessions thus far, they're set up for committees the session begins January the 9th. So we'll pay attention to what happens during the next number of months as to what's going to happen. But I don't know the proposers of the bill by name, but the bill's only 19 pages. It's not a big bill. In fact, it's very short for the purposes of what they want to accomplish, but it does exactly what they want to accomplish. I just want to suggest being mindful and being thoughtful of the fact that it's out there. It's not an aberration. It's real. Thank you for listening.
Madam Chair. Sam, is there any feedback that you've heard as to the reason these bills are coming forward? Because if it's a savings in the taxes, it's not going to happen to the city of Boca because they're going to they would pick up our facilities and the management of those facilities and add the cost to their budget.
Right.
And I suspect that's the case in a number of these special districts. What was the number of the House bill again?
The House bill, for the record, is 7013,
Okay.
and the Senate bill is 1058, both of which are filed. And the bills are identical, by the way.
Well, I happen to have plans to be in Tallahassee week after next, and plan to do a little legislative discussions. I'm up there on behalf of our state insurance association, but we meet with the legislators in the House and the Senate in the process, our local delegation. So I'm going to poke around a little bit there and maybe give you a report next time at our next meeting.
This bill, if adopted, currently is proposed to take effect on July 1 of 24. Just FYI, that's in the bill. But I'll just find the language from the actual. The way that the referendum was, if I may quickly, Madam Chair, the way the referendum question reads is a referendum call pursuant to the section shall contain a ballot question in substantially the following form. Should the independent special district known as the blank district, which has the authority to levy each year an ad valorem tax not to exceed maximum millage approved by the voters to fund certain services, continue for 10 years. They predicated the 10 years with the issue of taxation. They didn't use any other phraseology with regard to the district's performance or its activities. It's basically, if you tax, you want to continue being taxed. That was not unintentional. It was very purposeful. Thank you.
Okay, good.
Sorry for the good news.
I don't think we should, let's play it out. Let's see how it comes along, but we shouldn't be afraid of this. I think it is the beach and parks are very valued in this community. And I think long as it's important for us to continue the communication of what we do, so people do know what we do. That's kind of the basic thing. But I also think that given that, it's sort of like, do you have a will? And do we have a will? And I think we better have one if we don't. And, and what I mean by that is it's time to kind of really rethink, let's say that, this district is terminated in 10 years. It gets the first pass, but after 10 years, it's time to re-up all what we have. And we should think about it a lot quicker, or put it in the schedule. What do we want it to be? And then work with our counterparts to get the correct language put in place, because I, for one, would prefer that if this district was not to be the case, that our properties go to the city. Or you could say, do they go to the state, or do they go to, the Palm Beach County? Who's going to take over? What's going to take over? Who's responsible? Someone, I hope, will maintain these parks and keep them open for people and do things. And so I think our founding documents are very archaic and should be updated. So maybe we should take the action of, okay, let's, we'll do our part, do the education. I think the community will support the continuation of the Beach and Parks District for the good things that we have done. And I think the city would be supportive of it. But in the meantime, we should probably prepare what is the next step of this whole thing, regardless of what the outcome is. Just my 2 cents, but I'm not afraid of it. I think we justify what we do at a very low budget. We have some great projects. I have other comments when we get to that part of, commissioner comments, but we'll go
Madam
from there.
Chair, if I could just quickly respond. I'm sure, the way the bill is drafted, and your point's well taken from a legal perspective, the bill is so broadly construed, for example, it relates to hospital districts, the Memorial Healthcare System in Broward and the North Broward Hospital District System in Broward Health. Those are special taxing districts, no different than this organization legally as to what it can do. The Florida Inland Navigation District, which affects most of Southeast Florida, they're a special district. So the broad brush of the bill has yet to be refined by the legislature, and they sometimes open up a barrage very, very widely when the session begins and then narrow the focus to some later date, realizing, if you will, the 1,000+ bills that are filed every session, only a handful actually pass. Actually, a handful actually make it out of both the House and Senate. And by the way, if you pass a bill in the House and a bill in the Senate, but you don't have a joint of the two, it's not a bill, not the law. It's just two bills, unfortunately, as the case may be. So it's the beginning of a conversation, a very large conversation. And I would just ask that you monitor it with your various colleagues and friends, because it is out there. It's not to be feared per se, but to be recognized as a source of importance. Thank you.
It's been out there before. I've heard this before. And, to Craig's point, it's like, let's bring it on. Compared to where we are today, and with the public knowing who we are versus when I first got on the district, we're miles above that. Because more and more people recognize the difference between us and the city, and the city is one of our business partners. But the way the bill is drafted, and when it throws taxes in there, that's an opening that I think we just need to be prepared for. And I think our message is out there, thanks to people like Howard and the other folks, the pickleball folks, that I think that we have done a great job for the community recreationally. And at one time I was under the impression that I'd heard from someone legally that if that were to be the case, Patch Reef would be taken over by the county, which, would surprise me. But I think it's not anything that I'm concerned about. And the vote would take place this July 2024, Sam, is that what you're? 26. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Just an observation. If for whatever reason, at some point down the road, we're not reauthorized, that would technically give the recipient of our properties the right to resell those properties as commercial or residential areas, which is kind of like counter to what we do. And it's something that would be beyond our control. This is just an observation that I'm making. But I think it's an observation that the public should be made aware of. And if the public will have to decide what our future is, they should bear that in mind, that I don't want to say we're the canary in the coal mine. I don't want to paint that darker picture. I agree with both you, Robert, and you, Craig, that this is something that, we can stand on a record. We have a record to stand on, and we now have the visibility with the public so that we can make a case. But I think the public should be aware that they're not cutting taxes. They may be cutting facilities and public assets. So just my 2 cents.
Do you work with Sam and possibly get the names of who we could email and communicate with up in Tallahassee, please?
Madam Chair, real quick, there's actually the language in the statute suggests that if a majority of the qualified electors does not approve the continuation of the independent special district, the governing body of the district may not incur any additional obligations or indebtedness, including the issuance of new bonds or extending the maturity date of any outstanding bonds, other than expenses incurred in the ordinary course of business. Within 90 days after the date of the referendum, the governing body of the district by resolution must adopt a dissolution plan that includes provision for liquidation of all the district's assets, satisfying all of the district's obligations and indebtedness, ensuring the continuity of public services provided by the district, and providing a date on which the district will terminate its operations. The resolution shall be considered at a public meeting held specifically to consider the dissolution plan. That is not a regularly scheduled emergency meeting of the governing body of the independent special district. The proposed dissolution plan must be posted on the district's official website at least 2 days before the meeting. The adopted dissolution plan must be posted on the independent special district's official website within 30 days after adoption and must remain on the website. The governing body of the district must submit its dissolution plan to the local governing body or authorities and to the department within 30 days after adoption. The city, although I've seen some district bills that basically talk about dissolution where the state actually becomes the receiver of the assets. That's not what this bill says. I can tell you, it gives you some authority as to how you dispose of the property, but it's somewhat illogical and of concern in the context of not being given any guidance. And it does require that you notify the local government and the state. But there's nothing in the bill, as I read it, that talks about a plan for you. It just says you set your own plan, have a hearing, and say so long. It is very draconian, but again, just requires some attention and some thought as the session begins. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening.
Okay, commissioners, Steve, you wanna go first?
First, I'd like to congratulate the outgoing, incoming officers on their reelection. You guys do a great job, each and every one of you, and I'm glad to be associated with you. Wish everybody a happy new year. And I look forward to a very productive 2024. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And likewise, couple comments. One is, as we get into 2024, we're only in the second day of this year. I reflect back on what we have done and where we're going. And I guess what I'd like to see happen in 2024, some way, somehow is, a lot of our projects I've gotten kind of accustomed to government project planning and stuff. And I've shared with Brianne my concerns with it, but it just seems like it's at a glacier pace. Everything we do is at a glacier pace, and, we're always told that, oh, it's the city's permitting, it's the city's site plan development, it's the city's this or that. I'm hopeful that, with the change of staff, at City Hall, but I think we should, try for better. And what is better, I don't know, but I know that as you, Aaron, play pickleball, and you probably know that the pickleball players at Patch Reef, I hear it through my son, they don't understand why the extra courts are. Yeah, but how many months do we need for a permit on a fence? This is the one thing that should be, easy to do for anyone to do. Fences are done all the time.
For the fence permit, that's what took so long.
I know,
So,
but why? I guess I don't understand this. This glacier pace is all over everything we do, and that's what I don't understand. It's from Ocean Strand, it's from the roof at Sugar Sand, it's to the North Park. This glacier pace of everything we do just makes no sense when my neighbor can put a roof on his house in less than 2 weeks, a metal roof, and it looks beautiful. It looks done correctly. And you go over to Sugar Strand, I already gave, Brianne my comments on the roof over there. It is just not the way a roof should be put on and left on there. From the edging to everything around it, and I think they're done to parts of it, but I know we're waiting for them to say they're done. It is $1 million+ project that is taking 1 year+ to do. If it's that, I get it. There's always complexities when you get into things. I'm all in on that. But some of the finished work of it, okay, I'll wait till the end to see if it's done. But right now, it's not that good, particularly for what we pay for it. So to me, these are the things you call them in on and you say, hey, look, this is unacceptable. And I know Brianne is working it. But it's a glacier pace and things. That's what I'm trying to get away from. And so I know it's not a friendly topic for our friends at the city because we want to get along with them, but I'm hopeful that we can do something. So what I would suggest that what we can do on this stuff is let's take a different approach for our project planning this year. Let's go park by park and let's have an overall view of it and take park by park our projects that we currently have in flight and what we'd like to have in flight, you know, over, you know, the immediate year, 3-year, 5-year, 10-year, and take one session of each of the next 6 months or whatever it is and talk these things through and physically visit these parks. And if we can't visit the parks, let's get a drone and go look at them. We need to be out there and look at the parks. When you go and see some of these parks, you say, well, this is unused space. I suspect it's still the same. We need to take our areas of the parks and just have a better, I think each of us take the effort to go through them a little bit more. And I know you've probably seen a lot of the different parks, Aaron. I was just kind of surprised when I go over to Sugar Sand, the closest one to my house, and see it. There's things that are just kind of like, gosh, you know, is this what we really want? You know, and I give the feedback to Brianne. I know she works on it with others from the city, but I'm more concerned about the big projects, the planning of each park, and thinking that we should, as a group, be prepared for that city meeting. Let's get ahead of the meeting that the joint meeting that we're going to have, and say these are the things that we want to get done for our parks. This is what our plan is. And I know many of this we already have, but I want to take a little deeper dive in it and say, here's a plan for Sugar Sand. Here's a plan for Swim and Racket Center. Here's the plan for each of them. So we're all on the same page with a little bit more substance and detail. And so that's where I would suggest that we take a deeper dive on it. And that's my recommendation for the new year. So, feedback?
Okay, I do have some feedback. When you say we move at a glacier pace, I don't think that's fair. I don't think we move at a glacier pace. I think when the project involves the city, it moves at a glacier pace. And we have known that their permitting department and planning department has had issues for years and years and years. I've spoken to Monica about it, and she's been trying to bring it up and bring it up and bring it up, but because of the city manager, nothing's been done. So hopefully with the changeover, maybe something will be done, but that's where the glacier pace comes into play. It has nothing to do with our staff. Our staff does a really great job in moving the projects along. So, I agree with you that, like, you know, I mean, I go to the parks all the time. I'm up close and in there all the time. I haven't seen the roof. I've been getting feedback. But obviously we will get it right in the end, and we'll make sure that it's right in the end. But obviously that was the contractor who made some errors, and there was stuff going on with the architectural drawings of the roof originally that they had issues with and things like that. So things like that come up in projects. But we will get it right in the end. But again, the glacier pace is not our staff and not I believe. I think it's when a project involves the city, and you have to go through the permitting department, that's where the glacier pace comes into play. From my view. I think we move expeditiously from our staff, at least. So, but I agree. I don't see a problem looking at all the parks and looking at the projects that we're going to do. But again, I don't think we need to micromanage these projects either. We have staff who are going to do these things, and we hired two firms that are going to be, you know, looking at these projects and stuff. And I think we might, right, I'm going to get another one, but, you know, I don't think micromanaging the product is going to help. It's not going to speed things along any faster, us micromanaging these projects. But it is good to see them park by park, I think.
Is that I don't see it as micromanaging at all. I see that as us elected officials trying to correct something that is, you know, incorrect. And maybe it's at City Hall, but the reality is, if you talk to the average resident of the city, they have no idea what the district is versus the city. All they know is it's some city government facility. And Glacier Pace is Ocean Strand, what we both got elected here to do. And finally it is open, but it took a long time to open it. Maybe it all was a city permitting, but this is just a pathway and a beachfront. That's all it is. And it's a site plan now that has been anchored in cement that we can't add anything to it. I think we got to start thinking it through to have, if we needed a proper site plan that had parking and a gatehouse to go, well, dang, I would have done that in the very beginning. So it wouldn't have to go through it all again and have the city come back and route it to everyone in the city to say, what do they think it should be? And then they make their comments and then we respond to their comments and then
but they have never changed, and they're not going to change until new management comes into play, right? So maybe new management will turn things around, hopefully, but I think it's a big project for them to do. I mean, overhauling the permitting of a city is a lot, I think. So all we can do, really, I think we can't do anything other than what we've continued to do on all our projects, is to communicate with them. But they have their process. And when we're doing a project and we have to get permits through the city of Boca, we have no other choice but to go through their process and communicate as best as we can from our end of things. And I feel like our staff does that, because I'm here a lot of the time and I get feedback from Brianne and Melissa on the steps that they have to go through. And we just have to continue to educate people that we are two different entities and we're doing a project. It's our project, but we have to get it permitted through the city of Boca. And when I go to pickleball at Patch Reef, I explain that to them. And I say, yes, I'm on the commission and we're paying for this and we're doing this process, but we have to wait for the permit to do the fence. And that's what's taking so long. And that's what I communicate to them. So, there's always improvements in our process that we can do, I feel like, and we can continue to work on that. But I feel like the Glacier Pace it's not us, it's the city permitting process.
Just a little bit of history, put this into context. When I was elected to the board and sworn in 11 years ago today, the city and the district were working on a new pumping facility for Gumbo Limbo. That was beginning of 2013. Took 10 years to get that system up and running. I don't even think it's up and running now. I think there's an issue. Mike, it's running. Okay. Yeah. But here we are. This was not a difficult project. It had already been engineered. The Friends of Gumbo Limbo at the time told us what was necessary. We all agreed on what was necessary. So this was, and all we were doing was funding it. And it still took 10 years to get off the ground. So this is, believe me, I wish we could move a heck of a lot faster than we move. But this is, these are things that are not within our control. I agree with you. Let's take an overall look at the projects we have. Let's figure out what's doable, what needs to be done, so that, there's a semblance of order. But, the pace, I would love to pick up the pace, but I think that's mostly out of our control.
I don't want anybody to fall on their sword over this, because there's not a whole lot we can do about it. I mean, as far as our projects, I mean, we stay on them. I mean, the resurfacing of Patch Reef Park with our sports turf took a while. When you're getting involved in permitting, I wish it were different than what it is, but I know developers who just don't do work here in Boca because of the permitting process. The one takeaway from what Craig said, I think, is that we should, taking a look at our projects that we have in our parks, like Aaron, I'm in our parks a lot. And I'm satisfied with what I see, you know. The one recommendation I made recently was to put fences up at Sugar Sand at the Hornley, which took a year and a half to do. But finally it got done. With the pickleball facility, we've been pretty responsive to the pickleball facilities on the facilities that were taking down tennis courts and redoing them with pickleball. I think there may be other opportunities that we should look at and project, but as far as looking too far down the road, I never would have anticipated 5 years ago that we'd have the demand for pickleball that we do today. And the same thing when I first got on the district, everybody was happy with grass fields over at Patch Reef, but then the lacrosse folks brought to our attention that they would like to have that, and it's also it gives us year-round playability on those facilities, in spite of, so long as it's not, you know, in a lightning storm, we can continue to play there. I wish that there was some way we could turn the dial and make it go faster, but I think we do a pretty good job of responding and staying on something like we have, but it takes a while. Look what happened with the Ocean Breeze facility. We worked on that and finally got to a point where we thought we had the deal done by getting the price down below what the city said. If you get to 13 million, we'll approve this plan. And then they get gifted with the Boca Country Club, which makes our project a little more difficult to achieve. I think in looking forward, I think an evaluation of our parks as far as any improvements and upgrades besides just maintenance may be in order, but I think we've done a pretty darn good job with what we've been handed to work with. I really do. And I compliment our staff for staying with it. I'm hopeful that with the new sheriff in town that we're going to be dealing with, who I absolutely appreciate George Brown's work and anticipate working with him. The one thing I will say, and this is changing the subject a little bit, is that Robert, I can assure you that there's no sunshine violations with our group. I think that it goes without saying, the integrity of the people I sit with here is beyond reproach, and anything that we do is decided publicly. That's our charge, and that's what we do. I've never had a conversation that's outside the scope of anything that we're talking about to get a consensus of what people want. And so I want to assure you that we're as transparent. What you see is what you get. So, and I'm not saying that you are suggesting that, but because you touched on it, I want to make it clear that we are all have a clear conscience. So, Madam Chair, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
That's so that was all your comments? Okay. Susie?
I'm really happy that we have our chairwoman and our treasurer and our vice chair in place. To note what you're talking about, Craig, as far as getting things rolling on New Year's Eve, WPTV had a really nice segment on Jordan Ogman and the park at Patch Reef. So Brianne and Melissa and Joanne have been seeing to it that goes forward in a timely fashion. They're doing all they can, I know, because we talked about it. So, and the Ogmans are very appreciative of the fact that we went ahead and without reservation, decided that we were going to make this an all-inclusive park, and that just makes me really happy. I think we all travel through the parks, maybe incognito a little bit. I do walk around and they have no idea who I am, and I want to keep it that way. And I express everything that I'm concerned about to Brianne, and I do intend to take a structural engineer over to look at the roof at Sugar Sand. He's in Spain right now, but he'll be back, and we'll let him look at it and evaluate it because he has nothing to gain on either end. So I just hope everybody has a very happy new year and a very healthy one.
You. And thank you for your confidence in your vote, being chairwoman again. And I will work hard and do a good job. And I will continue to accept until you don't want me anymore. A happy new year. And that's all I have. So we're all set. Mhm. I think we're set with that.
Second,
Commissioner Ernst, Commissioner Engel, Commissioner Rollins, Commissioner Vogelsang, Commissioner Wright.
Yes.
Motion passes.